Hello, high schoolers. This is Skill Builder 3, and today you are going to need your sight reading book for string orchestra and your vibrato readiness worksheet that I handed out in class. And in this video, I'm going to do something a little bit different that hopefully you find fun. Throughout the lesson, I am going to randomly say the names of 3 varieties of apples, and if you can send me that list of apples before the next day 1, I will have a treat for you in class on the next day 1. So make sure you're really listening and that you stick with me all the way to the end. Let's start with the sight reading book because I'm only going to spend a minute looking at this. Your homework is number 7. I'm not going to play through any of them for you. I want to see how you do with it on your own. And what I'd like you to do is to use stars, go through and look at number 7 and then sight read through it. And then go back and fix anything that you made a mistake on or that you have questions on. And then we'll play it together in class on day 1. The one thing I want to draw your attention to is the key signature. So this might be a tricky key signature for some of us, but it's something that I know you all can do. So make sure you're having some grit and you're really taking the time to make sure you are playing every note that the key signature asks you to play and that you're not playing notes that the key signature doesn't ask you to play. So I'm going to leave that there. Number 7 is for you to do on your own. But let's talk about vibrato. So I told you a couple of weeks ago, I think, that one of my goals for everyone in the class is that by the end of the year, you can play 7 scales with confidence. I have another goal for everyone, and it's that by the end of the year, you either know how to do vibrato or you are on your way to developing how to do vibrato. And I think that's a very attainable goal for everyone, but you have to be willing to put some work in. Before we look at the sheet, let me show you just one quick thing about vibrato. Because throughout the next couple of weeks, as we're talking about this, I want you to feel comfortable trying to do vibrato when we're in class. And I don't expect you to get it in a week. I don't expect you to get it in a month. It might take 2 to 3 months for some of you. But I want to make sure that you are doing the right thing. So when you do vibrato, let me get a little closer so you can see. The idea is that you're taking the pitch you would normally play and making it slightly higher and then slightly lower. And then slightly higher and slightly lower. But you're doing it fast. And so what you get is this like oscillating effect. There's actually a picture of it sort of behind the vibrato readiness on the top of your worksheet there. Kind of looks like this. That's what the sound is doing. And so you get that effect by actually changing the point of contact that your finger has with the string. You're changing where your finger is pressing down the string. You can get a similar but not correct sound by just really lightly picking your finger up off the string and just moving it up and down. Not only is that not correct, it also, when you play with a full tone, it doesn't sound good. So do yourself the favor of not learning it the wrong way, because then you just have to unlearn it and relearn it the right way. Learn it the right way now. Make sure you're putting in the time to these exercises so that you can do it the right way. And I know you will all feel very accomplished when you're able to do it the correct way. So we're going to move on to the worksheet. Macintosh. So this is a checklist of different parts of your body to make sure that you are not having tension in them, because tension and vibrato do not mix. It's going to be very hard to do vibrato if you are playing with a lot of tension. And so we're going to start right at the beginning with body. And what it's basically asking, well, first it's telling you that when you don't have an instrument in your hand, most of you are able to just move freely without even really thinking about it, right? Your body is not super tense. For a lot of people, the minute they put an instrument up, they all of a sudden become like super rigid and tense. And that's not a good thing. You shouldn't be tense while you're playing. And so they've said in this that if you feel like you're not balanced, like that you're tense as you're holding your instrument, to ask your teacher. I have 2 things that probably are the answer to why you're tense, but if you are still after you go through these 2 things, then feel free to come talk to me and I'm happy to help you out. But it's one for violin, viola, and one for cello, bass. So violin and viola almost always, if you're tense while you're playing and not able to do vibrato, it's because you are actually holding your instrument up with your left hand. You shouldn't have to hold your instrument up with your left hand. You should be able to do this. So if you can't do this, you need to have this down before you can even think about doing vibrato. If you need a shoulder rest, come see me. I should have enough for everyone to have one, and if not, I will order more. A lot of times I can tell you're holding your instrument up with your left hand because you're going like this, right? There's no way that you could let go of your instrument right now without it falling. But if I have it up like this, and again, I'm not tense. You can see I'm not bending my neck in a weird way. This is very comfortable. I could sit like this for a while before I started to feel uncomfortable. But my left hand isn't holding the instrument. So this is the biggest thing for violins and violas, to get your body to not be as tense when you're holding your instrument, to feel balanced. Cello and bass, it's a similar thing. A lot of times we're really gripping onto our instrument when we feel like the end pin's going to slip out from under us and we're going to lose the instrument. We've all been there where maybe we didn't have a cello board and our end pin wasn't really holding on the ground, and so we're like holding on to it up here, and then you can't really play even your notes properly, forget about vibrato. And so you want to make sure you either have a rock stop or a cello board or a end pin strap or something to secure your instrument so that you can hold it without hands. And that's how you'll know that you're ready to go, that you're balanced with holding your instrument. Move on to the arm checkbox. It says to place your left hand in playing position, and it asks if your elbow can swing freely under the instrument. Or if you're a cello or bass, can your elbow move freely this way? And also, it's hard to do it without a cello, but as you go across strings, your elbow does move a little bit too. And it says if you're not able to do that, you might have some tension in your shoulders, or you might be squeezing the neck of your instrument. Again, we want to avoid any sort of squeezing the neck of your instrument. And so they have an exercise to help you if you're feeling like you're tense in your left arm. By the way, I didn't name these exercises. I know they're very weird names, but we're going to go with them. So this one is called the swing plop. So what you're going to do, it says to hold your instrument in playing position, and it says to use your right hand to make it steady and secure. Again, you shouldn't have to do this, but if you're feeling like you're going to drop your instrument, then hold it with your right hand. They want you to swing your arm, right? So I'm not moving my arm, like I'm not moving it the whole time and being tense with it. This is a very loose swing, right? I don't have a lot of control over it. And then it says to come up and kind of flop it, or plop it, I guess is why it's called a swing plop. Oops, I hit my instrument. Onto the fingerboard, so kind of like that. It's kind of awkward. It's really awkward for me right now because I'm the only one in the room doing it, but when we all do it together, it will not be as awkward, I promise. Okay, but do that a few times, and it's really the swinging that just kind of loosens up your arm. My arm already feels a lot looser from doing that. Then we move on to the hand portion of the checklist. This is something I've talked about in class before, and I'm going to demonstrate again. I'm going to take my watch off just because it makes it a little bit easier to see. You should not have any weird bends in your wrist. What we're looking for when you play is a straight line from your pinky all the way through to your arm. Well, not really from your pinky, I guess, because you're playing, but from your hand all the way through to your arm. So on violin and viola, it looks like this. Do you see how it's one big straight line? This is not a straight line. There's a bend here. This is not a straight line. So we're looking for straight line from hand through wrist into arm. Cello bass, same thing. Straight line. I have to still hold it over here, so I can't point, but straight line from hand into wrist into arm. Okay? That's it with hand. Go ahead and flip to the back of your page. Red Delicious. All right, now it's talking about your thumbs and your fingers. Again, you don't want to be squeezing with your hand, and they have an exercise to help with your thumbs and fingers called Happy Tappy. This one's pretty fun. So you go and you tap with your thumb, and then you tap with your third finger, and then you tap with your thumb, and then with your third and fourth finger, and then, can you guess, back to your thumb. And so they go through all these different combinations of single fingers and then double fingers, but always going back to the thumb. If you're holding your instrument like this, you're not going to be able to do that very well. I will say the one thing to look out for violins and violas is that sometimes when we're playing and we're not doing vibrato, we actually have a little point of contact, I don't know if you can see it, where my first finger is against the fingerboard. That's okay to have. When you do vibrato, you actually have to take it off, but that's the only point of contact that you should have other than your thumb. Violins and violas, thumb goes here. Cello and bass, thumb goes here. Okay, so other than that, little point of contact on your index finger and your thumb. That's it, and obviously your fingertips, right? The rest of your hand should not be touching your instrument. Okay, last but not least, the shake, rattle, and roll. This is a great one. This is where we're actually starting to get sort of a vibrato motion. So it says, without your instrument, sorry, let me put my instrument down. Without your instrument, hold in your left hand a real or imaginary matchbox half filled with rice kernels. I do not have a matchbox filled with rice kernels, and I will not have it for you in class. If you want to bring one, you can, but it's not necessary. So we have our imaginary matchbox. And it says, with your left hand, knock on an imaginary door in front of you. And this is, for violins and violas, the motion for vibrato. Okay? If you're a cello, you can rotate and do a similar motion but up and down. Okay, this is closer, a cello or a bass, sorry. This is closer to what your vibrato will look like. But you see how loose my wrist is. I'm not like intentionally moving it. I'm just moving my hand and it's kind of going with the flow, right? Same thing for cello and bass. Man, now there's a truck outside and they're looking at me do this. See? So nothing to be embarrassed by. This is how we are practicing our vibrato. Okay? So once you can do all of these things, it says that you're ready to move on to the next set of exercises, which we will do next week. But we're going to do these in class together. These are really good exercises to do to just loosen up your arm and get ready to do vibrato. So that's it for today. I just wanted to go through that checklist. We will do them in class as warm-ups starting on day 1, and we will also work on number 7. But I'm going to end by saying, Granny Smith, have a great day. I'll see you guys in class.